found a key. The key to every question that has ever been asked. It's a puzzle. But the pieces are there for us to put together. And I know that they can save you if you can just hold on. Mulder. Please. Hold on.
Welcome to Most Unwanted, an X-Files podcast. We are back. It feels like it's been a long, long time. I'm joined by Luke, by the way.
It's so long we forgot how to do it.
I feel like we make that same joke every time we start a new season.
And we will continue to do that for every season.
That's what people tune in for. It's the old and tired jokes that we just...
Consistency.
We're consistently bad.
Yeah, exactly.
The consistently bad podcast. We don't call ourselves the Most Unwanted crew for nothing.
Exactly.
How are you, Luke? How's things? It's been 2 months since the last...
No, it's weird in how it feels like it's been forever since we recorded. But yeah, literally, it's only been 2 months, but so much has happened really in the world at large, like, and just in general.
Oh,
I'm not going to go into that.
Someone tweeted us, and off the top of my head, I do apologise. I haven't got the name to hand, and I don't have the quote verbatim. But someone tweeted us about how they're going through some of our older episodes and how it's really interesting to hear was mention COVID for the first time. Yeah. And it is funny how we've been doing this since 2018.
Yeah.
And it's such a surreal thing, to know that there's evidence of the way we was throughout all these crazy events that have happened over the past 4 years.
I think in the last 4 years, well, since we started, we've both moved into houses, both moved into new jobs.
Yeah.
And it literally is a time capsule of what we're doing.
Global pandemic.
Yeah.
There's been a war.
There's been a lot going on, yeah. Maybe historians in future, I don't know if they'll be looking at this, maybe they'll be looking at Joe Rogan or something like that. But you never know, they might find this podcast and go, wow, these guys were talking about X-Files in the year 2020 for some strange reason.
It is wild. And it's funny the way things were, because this is, in the age of social media, this has got to be... It's weird, because... You know when you talk about eras, this is a weird tangent to get on right at the start of a new season.
Yeah, that's the way we do it. That's the way we do it.
But you know when you talk about eras, I was looking at this the other day because obviously we had the Jubilee in England. Not that I really cared that much, but...
2 days off, so I cared about
Not
that.
for me. I had to work them.
Oh dear.
But yeah, we had the Jubilee and I was looking what would this era be called? And it sent me down a rabbit hole of what eras there have been in England, and you've got obviously the Victorians and the Georgian, Edwardian, etc., etc. And then you go far enough back where they go, and the Wikipedia entries will be past this point, there's not really any documentation, so we can only guess as to what happened. I thought that's fascinating. It's fascinating that there's a whole world that we just don't really know. And now we've got to be the most documented age. Well, we are the most documented age in the history. But also, it's the most, uninformed, almost. So, anyone looking back at this age, if you look back at books written in 2 centuries ago, yes, it's going to be, biased towards one side or another. Yeah. But you get a general idea of what happened.
Yeah.
If anyone was to look back in 200 years' time at this year, you've got, you've got to look at 2,000 different opinions and try and piece together what actually happened.
Yeah, it is. It's because before it was we're just going off one account of things, and usually
it might, and that might not be right. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's always talk of the history's written by the victors, and it's so the reason we talk about Rome so much is because they just went around and just obliterated everybody.
Exactly. Yeah.
These days, there's no winners and losers. It's just everybody has instant access to give out their opinion, much like us. So we can't really, we're literally doing it.
Yeah,
right
but where the difference between us is we're right.
We're right. We are right.
So like you can listen to this and be assured that you're getting the correct information. It's
nice to know that the 2 months have not humbled us any.
Okay, so obviously we want to get into X-Files, but have you been up to much the last couple of months? What you been spending your time doing?
Do you know what? It's been, funnily enough, I think last time we recorded, I was still taking driving lessons. I've now passed.
Yes.
And I've been driving everywhere.
You've been driving everywhere.
I've driven so much that I now like F1 cars as well. Which are the two things I feel like the last 2 or 3 months that have sort of gone on, those are the two like tempos of my life at the moment.
I am going to take some credit in this.
100%. I feel like this is all your fault. So.
Yes, I watched Drive to Survive on Netflix. You know what it was? I mean, I can't believe we're going to start talking about F1.
I'll keep it brief.
Yeah, you know what it was? I just fancied. I heard all this stuff about Hamilton versus Verstappen. I just thought I want to get into this. And a guy at work turned around to me and said, "You should watch Drive to Survive. Even if you're not an F1 fan, it's a really good documentary." I thought, oh, okay, I'll give it a shot. And I just saw it one day. I was like, I'll watch an episode. I watched a lot within like a week. And then I became like the biggest F1 fan in the world. And I love it because so what happens when you get a new love for something? You want all your friends to join in on it. And I remember mentioning it to you and you was like, yeah, I'll give it a try.
I've never given a shit about cars before in my life.
No, exactly. And I was like, well, I was giving you the hard sell. Oh, it's about the drive, it's about the storylines. Yeah. And then you watched one race. We all got together, watched a race, and like you've turned into like the biggest fan ever as well. And I could geek out about cars with you. It's great.
It's mental. But as I say to anyone who's like, oh, it's just cars driving around in a circle, that's not what's interesting. It's honestly, it's the same reason I like wrestling. It's characters and stories, although these are real people doing mental stuff.
Without a doubt, it's the narrative behind everything.
100%,
yeah, so good.
Yeah.
And been driving around everywhere. You finding it all right?
Yeah. I'm getting a little bit of road rage myself now, so that's a sign that it's moving on. No, it's all going good. I've driven the motorway as well, or the freeway to our American listeners.
I'll be driving on the interstates.
Oh yeah,
they call it in America. Yeah. Which again, I'm not long past my test myself, but
it's the opposite side of the road. That's what you got to remember.
Yeah, I'm heading back to the States later this year. We're doing Route 66. So if anyone listening, well, we're not doing actual Route 66. Honestly, you have to do a lot of fucking research. Yeah. It's crazy. But Route 66 is basically not a road anymore. You can just kind of do the route and you can do some of the road and whatnot. Yeah. But if anyone has any X-Files spots that they say I need to stop on that route, let me know, because we will be there later on this year. But sorry, I cut you off.
No. I was just saying, like, just getting to grips. It's so, it really does, like, I know I've been able to get anywhere I want to before without driving, but it really does. I mean, even just for this, like recording now, we're doing it back of an evening. Before we'd have to like plan an entire evening around it, because it's like, oh, well, I've got to make sure I can get there on public transport. Then I've got to get home.
And the cost.
And now it's just like, yeah, I'll drive around. We'll do this, and then I'll just drive home straight away. And it's it's like 20 minutes. It's brilliant. So yeah, it is. It does that sort of makes it. I mean, I'm probably preaching to there's probably people driving around listening to this now going, yeah, it's great, isn't it? So yeah. But no, like I said, I think we're both, you passed before me, like when we were still talking last season. So yeah, we're both drivers now.
So to bring us back round to this podcast, I want to ask you this. Are you enjoying having the car to listen to your podcasts?
I am, yes.
It's a huge deal for me where I'm like, it's not lovely to get into a car. I like, everyone keeps saying like, you know, on some podcasts where they're like, oh, we're looking to get this out for your Monday morning commutes. And like, oh, I hope everyone's having a good day on the way to work. And I never got that because like, that's not when I listen to podcasts. I listen to podcasts on my lunch break.
Yeah.
Now I get that, you know what I mean? I get to enjoy the sort of like getting up in the morning, sticking on your favourite podcast and just sort of starting the day off right, which I hope is what we're doing for the many listeners around the world. Which, well, I mean, to be fair, we might as well just get straight into the episode.
I agree.
So this week, we are looking at Season 7. And I'll say it one more time for the people at the back. Season 7, Episode 1, entitled The Sixth Extinction.
I've got to say, I did get excited when I saw on Disney, because I'm watching on Disney Plus now.
Yeah.
You can actually see the end of the what? Six,
the list of seasons.
Like before, it was like you start at 1, you have to scroll. Now we're in the last chunk, and it's like, whoa, we've gone through most of it now.
We've got a lot to go, though. A lot to go. I think we've got 3 full seasons and then 2 short seasons.
Yeah, exactly. And a film,
and a film, and any other things that we want to go through at the time. So this one was directed by Kim Manners and written by Chris Carter. Originally aired November 7th, 1999. We're almost hit the millennium.
Or now we can't say millennium anymore.
Millennium?
Not after what he did.
Wait,
Did that happen while we were away?
I don't know.
Will Smith slap?
I mean, we can't talk about the Will Smith slap 2 months after it happened, surely.
It does. I started, like, I like to, when we come back, I like to go through my calendar to try and figure out what I've actually done. And, like, I thought, like, the most important
thing... I can't imagine you put Will Smith slap on your calendar.
So there was something up there, and I was like, there was not that, but there was something that popped up, and it was like, like a pop culture moment. And I was like, I saw Batman. I was like, can't really talk about Batman now. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yet I am. You know?
So, I mean, I was going to say we can't really talk about Millennium because isn't that the name of the other show?
It is the name
so we got to be careful of how much we drop that word as well.
Well, I hear there's a potential crossover episode coming up of Millennium and X-Files.
Okay. Educate me. As of the time it aired, was Millennium already going at this point?
I think so, yeah. I think they were very preemptive. We're going to get to this Millennium.
I know I've said this before and I'll say it again, but I am so looking forward to... I'm not wishing the time away, but I'm very much looking forward to finishing the seasons so I can listen to all the podcasts out there about X-Files.
Yeah.
I can listen to a lot more educated people talk about it in a lot more coherent way.
I think there's an episode... Yeah, I know. It is interesting. I do want to, like, once we finish this, not literally this episode, but when we finish the show, is go back and just try and figure out where we on sort of a level. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. You know what? I sometimes do think maybe we should dive into like more research of like what things were, where we was at in the timeline and whatnot. And then I'm like, you know what? I don't think that's the audience that we're getting for the show. The people that are really enjoying our show are enjoying it because we're just 2 normal guys enjoying a show for the first time.
Innocent guys. That's an old meme.
That's a very old
meme. Very old? Oh my God.
But they enjoy it because we're not pretending to be like experts in X-Files.
We're literally just watching it fresh and giving our opinions.
And if we get things wrong, it's because
we're
idiots.
Exactly.
I think that's all the details. I can't remember where I got up to.
It was just like the date, I think. Yeah. So
I'm going to start before I get to the plot. I'm going to start with 2 notes. Mm-hmm. Okay. If there's a downer note and there's an upper note, right? So it gets better. Downer note. The same problem I've had with every starter season. It's so tough, especially when mythology episodes are so infrequent and there's so many characters that are important to the plot that we've seen for less than 20 minutes over the entire course of the show. It's so tough to get back into because it's so difficult to figure out what you've seen. And like, there are characters that pop up into this that take me a full, 10 minutes to figure out where I've seen them before, or even if I have seen them before.
There's sometimes where I have to pause it and then go... I'll literally type in the name into YouTube or whatever and try and see what scenes they've been in. I'm like... Because spoilers for this episode. Critic, I was like, the name sounds familiar and like...
Sounds familiar because it's exactly like Krychek.
Yeah. Well,
whose idea was that?
That was another problem. But yeah, Critic, I was like, he looks familiar and I feel like I know him from somewhere. And then all it was found the scene that he's in from season 5 where he's doing the big walk and talk with Mulder, explaining all the conspiracies and stuff like that. I was like, oh, yeah, I remember talking about this now, and now that brings it all back. But yeah, initially I was like, I know him from somewhere, but I can't remember exactly where.
Total screen time, it's got to be less than 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're expected to remember all this. And this brings me on to my lighter point, which is our fan base, and generally the X-Files fan base as a whole. I know I can speak about stuff like this, and we'll get tweets, and we'll get emails, and we'll get feedback from people going, oh, and not in a condescending way either. They'll tell us, oh, this happened because of this, or if you go back to this episode, you'll see that this happened. And I have got mad respect. Yeah. And obviously they've got the advantage because they've seen it through multiple times and whatnot. But to know the lore of something so in-depth like that, I don't know how you guys do it, because I have got so much respect. And I'm blessed, really, that we can talk nonsense. And how many times have we got something completely wrong? Yeah. And not in a condescending way, and not in a you guys know nothing kind of way. But we've had people.
It is true.
It is a bit true. But we've had people come up to us and go on Twitter and say, actually, this has happened because of this in this episode. And it's go, oh yeah, of course. It just brings it back to your memory. Yeah. So it definitely helps. So definitely, if we get anything wrong, please feel free to correct us, because we love it. But yeah, it was difficult to get back into this, I've got to say.
I was thankful that the very first thing was a previously on, because that was like, thank Christ.
Even that doesn't give you too much, though, does it?
It basically just covers the last episode that we sort of watched. So yeah, it sort of re-jogs your memory for that. But the stuff that, if it happened 3 series ago, it's like, I can't really remember exactly what it was. And the main plot of what eventually happens with Mulder is kind of, it took me until reading about what happened later on and go, okay, I get this now because of this, that, and the other. Yeah. It did take a bit of piecing together. Yeah. I'm going to say that's the negatives out of the way, to be honest, for me, though. Yeah. Because, we'll get into the episode, but I largely enjoyed it.
Okay, so let's get into the play-by-play. Yeah. We start off with a voiceover from Scully.
I came in search of something I did not believe existed. I've stayed on now in spite of myself, in spite of everything I've ever held to be true. I will continue here as long as I can, as long as you're beset by the haunting illness which I saw consume your beautiful mind. What is this discovery I've made? How can I reconcile what I see with what I know? I feel this was meant not for me to find, but for you to make sense of. Make the connections which can't be ignored. Connections which for me deny all logic and reason. What is this source of power I hold in my hand, this rubbing? A simple impression taken from the surface of the craft. I watched this rubbing take its undeniable hold on you, saw you succumb to its spiraling effect. Now I must work to uncover what your illness prevents you from finding. In the source of every illness lies its cure.
And all the while she's, it's basically like a kind of like a recap, but also explaining like where she is in this sort of, where her head's at right now. But she's in her tent and she's basically Lara Croft, Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I didn't, do you know what, until you just said that, I was like, that is the exact vibe. She was Lara Croft in this, yeah.
Very much so. Yeah. She felt like an explorer, and like she was on her own and trying to figure this out because she had that purpose of saving Mulder, and not just saving Mulder, but like proving this unprovable thing.
Yeah, which we see this throughout this episode. It kind of feels like now she's on board with this extraterrestrial story, which we've been craving for ages, of like, she's not a skeptic anymore. She shouldn't be a skeptic. She's seen all these things. And now she actually kind of is on board and trying to do something that 2 seasons ago she wouldn't have done because it's like, well, this isn't going to work. I also liked as well that during the voiceover, she said she noted on Mulder's beautiful mind, which again is just showing more of her sort of thoughts towards Mulder. And I think this sort of pays off in this sort of like 3-episode arc of like this connection that they have now.
Yeah, for sure. And again, this whole arc really, I don't know whether I could be completely off base, but this whole arc to me says that we're going in a completely different direction this season.
100%, yeah. I feel like a lot of the stuff that we've been doing for the last 6 series, it's gone now. Like,
I'll be disappointed if it goes back to... Obviously, I'm not expecting, like, big changes, but I'll be disappointed if we go back to the same run-of-the-mill stuff. Like, it feels like this is a clear point of, like, the story has progressed.
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, we see, I'll just quickly go through what we see with Scully. She's poring over like pictures that she's clawed together of like the ship and the writings on the ship, and she's trying to sort of translate them. A lot of biblical references, which obviously the Sixth Extinction, it's in the title. We come to sort of realize throughout the episode that this was aliens that sort of all religions in the world. I think the idea is that all religions in the world were based off this alien race that came down.
Basically, yeah. Literally everything on Earth there's like this like come from this alien sort of, not invader but visitor, I guess. Yeah, whether it's our biology or religion and sort of history.
And we get a lot of, it's not just the references that are like the actual written references on the spacecraft. It's also like, we get to like a native African man keeps appearing to her. Mm-hmm. I don't really know that they ever fully explain this.
Yeah, they never really go into what exactly this is.
The person, I forget her name, I wrote it down somewhere, but the person that's helping her out, like a sort of her guide almost.
The woman,
yes.
Negebi, I think her name was.
Yes. Basically explains it as an omen, and that's why they believe. And there's a lot of omens, like right after she sees it the first time, there's a plague of insect, which she takes way better than I would.
I thought this was a fun day of filming where she just gets absolutely peppered by all these things.
She didn't have a problem. Yeah. Like, you know what? When she's unscrewing a light bulb with those moths nearby, I couldn't do that, let alone be put in a tent full of thousands of bugs.
Yeah. It's crazy, like, how many religious references are throughout this episode and the next one, which we'll go into like more next week. But yeah, there's so many like religious references throughout all of this. It's obviously because there's that religious text on there, so there's going to be some links to it. But there's a lot of referencing and themes about it as well.
Do you think there was backlash to this? I feel like it's something you can get away with a little more now.
I think,
but this felt bold for the time.
So there's a production note that I got rid of from this one because I think we covered it in the first episode. Annoyingly, because they're so linked, the production notes seem to repeat themselves. But they wrote this and expected backlash, but apparently they didn't get that much. Like, because the fans sort of trusted them with sort of doing it respectfully. Yeah.
All the while this is happening, we've got Skinner looking after Mulder, who is still in a very sort of deranged state.
Yeah.
In fact, he looks a lot worse for wear than when we left him last season. He's basically being kept in a padded cell at this point, and when Skinner goes to check on Mulder the first time, Mulder fully attacks him. Yeah. Almost kills him. I'd say.
Pins him to the floor, chokes. Skinner has such a badass line in this as well. As he's pinned down by Mulder, he just says, "I don't want to hurt you." It's like only an incredibly like strong-willed person could be in the weaker position of a fight and be like, "I don't want to hurt you."
You know what though? Fully believe that if Skinner wants to win that fight, he would.
100%, yeah.
Skinner would batter Mulder.
He would break his neck if he wanted to.
That might upset some people. But the truth does hurt sometimes. Yeah, Skinner would batter Mulder.
He would absolutely batter him.
I'd like to see it. I'd like to see that fight.
Yeah, maybe one. No, they. I feel like early on we might have saw that fight. You know what I mean? Like first series, second series. They're in cahoots now.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
for sure.
They ain't gonna fight.
This turned out to be some sort of ruse, which again surprised me because I think we're basically led to believe that Mulder doesn't have any function of his brain later on in the episode, or his brain's like firing at such a rate that he can't keep up with it.
Yeah.
But he does manage to get a note to Skinner, puts it in his pocket with the words "help me" on it.
Written in blood, isn't it, basically?
Yes. Yeah. So we realise sort of the drastic steps Mulder's taking to figure out what situation he's in. And then this sort of course, let's not forget, this also puts Skinner in a very difficult position because he can see Mulder is in need. He can see that there's not a lot Mulder can do. He has to do something, but also we know what Krycek's got over him.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is a very difficult position for Skinner, and great for his character. Like, they don't really go into this much in this episode, but when you take a step back and you look at it, how brave Skinner is in this episode, knowing that he's holding the kill switch.
Yeah.
And he's still helping.
Yeah. There's stuff that comes off in the next episode as well, which I really liked about Skinner's character. But yeah, it relates to that same kind of thing of his sort of like strength of will, basically.
Yeah. I am just sort of giving a brief overview, so I might skip a few bits, so feel free to like delve into anything that you might have seen at the time. But we go back to Scully, and there's a lot of locals helping out, but they keep getting scared off by, again, these omens, such as very, not just omens, very apocalyptic omens as well. We're talking blood's boiling and then a sea of blood.
Yeah. I really like the effect of like the boat boiling like ocean of the guy coming out. Like the practical effects on that I thought were really cool as well. Because again, I feel like they've gone from strength to strength with their practical effects. It just looked really nasty, this did.
Yeah.
And later on as well, there's like a scene where somebody gets macheted, and I thought that looked like quite convincing. Obviously, it's not full-on gore, but you know what I mean? Like for a TV sort of show from the 90s, it looks like really convincing of what's happening. Yeah.
Night and day from the first season.
100%, yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
For sure. Which is interesting considering the first season, you got to, I mean, I'm talking from a point of hindsight here, but you've got to think that it must be one of the first shows to break ground in like practical effects.
I've not seen them mentioning like winning any awards for effects or anything, but what else would be doing this?
I can't think of much else.
Buffy's probably the only other thing I could think of with a lot of practical effects on like a TV kind of scale.
Yeah.
That's the only thing, really.
I think with Buffy, you kind of knew what you was getting though, whereas.
Or Star Trek, maybe that might be.
Next I suppose there are different. Maybe I'm not educated enough to know, but I thought like the practical effects have been pretty good all the way through, considering the time that it was filmed. But you can tell a huge difference.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, the budget is whether it's actually been increased, but they've got better with it. If they haven't, yeah.
Also, in this little period between the locals getting scared off and not wanting to help out any further, there is also the return of Dr. Barnes, who is missing. I don't know what the polite way to put this.
He looks like a maniac.
Yes.
Yeah. Unhinged, completely unhinged.
Are we to believe that this is as an effect of the spacecraft, or as an effect of things almost like Mulder, or are we to believe this is literally just like the mad architect that wants credit for his work? You know what I mean?
I'm not sure what it doesn't really explain exactly what's sent him in this direction, but he is definitely like changed since the first episode. Like he seemed a lot more. I mean, I know he killed somebody, but he seemed way more like altogether, I guess, the way he acted. Whereas now he's just, well, I mean, throughout this episode, he constantly looks like he could kill somebody at any moment. You know what I mean? Like he's always
it gives me Indiana Jones villain vibes.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, the way he looks. Yeah, he with his what's that sort of phrase where it's like obviously he's not English, but you know when like you see like an English person go into a really hot country and they just look like they're not suited for that weather.
Yeah.
Like that way, he's just completely hanging off and he's just completely red. I was like, either he's gone like, what's it, a Mad Dog in the Sun, is it? Or something like that. I don't know if he's gone there that, or if something alien has sort of affected him.
See, I genuinely thought, because he does later on, and I wasn't going to go into like this much detail, but later on he does like start threatening Scully, not about like the importance of the discovery, but the idea that this is my discovery and this isn't yours. And I thought, oh, this is just a base instinct of like wanting to get credit for this.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it is as simple as that. Like he wants the like proof of this alien life.
Doesn't work out too well for him.
No.
Back at the hospital, Skinner's still worried about Mulder, and Mulder manages to write a message, just because obviously Skinner knows he can write now. And Mulder writes Critic on his arm, which I was like, what? Like, genuinely, it took me a while to like go, oh, I know who that guy was.
The name sounded familiar, but I couldn't remember who he was.
Genuine question, I know I made a joke about it earlier. Whose idea was it to have Krychek and Critic?
Yeah, it is confusing. I think that the names...
Of all the names you could have picked, why choose two so similar?
That's
because I thought he writ Krychek on the arm. Yeah. That's what I thought he'd writ.
There's a running joke at the moment with in like certain wrestling promotions where people have all got the same name. And before, people would be like, because there was that like wacky time where like WWE was changing people's names to like really weird stuff because they didn't want people to be called the same name. It's like, why are they doing that? And now when you've got like people on the same show there's 3 people called Page, or last names are Page, and all this stuff. And it's like, oh, it does sound confusing actually. And it's like, with this, when it's so plot critical to know who they are, to have something that sounds quite similar is kind of a detriment, I think. Definitely is a detriment.
Yeah, for sure. Like, it would be so much easier just to give him a more straightforward name that you can remember.
Yeah.
But again, it's nitpicky.
Yeah.
So Skinner eventually goes to visit Krichgau, who is in a very different position to when we last met him.
Yeah.
He's out of the system. He's not involved in it anymore. Basically discredited, sitting at home, doing nothing, looks unemployed.
I like how you can tell that he's on hard times because he's got 5 o'clock shadow, which is the hallmark.
I'm pretty sure he's wearing a t-shirt as well. Which, you know, when it's always jarring to see a guy that always wears suit in normal clothes.
Yeah, you're like, oh, what's happening?
Yeah. Whereas like
not clean shaven, you're like, uh-oh.
Exactly, and like I'm never clean shaven. Yeah. I never wear suits. Yeah. So like he just looks like me, but he looks worse for wear.
You're the opposite. If I see you clean shaven in a suit, I'm like, has he done something wrong?
Checks must have a court date.
Yeah.
I like how I said I've got a 5-hour shadow. Like we don't both have beards.
Yeah. I was thinking about this the other day. Like I was walking around town, I'm going, everyone's got beards these days, and they like when did that just become like 10, 20 years ago? Like everyone just clean shaven. Now everyone's got beards. It's like
fashion changes.
Gillette must be screwing. Like they're just so angry.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, you never see the bloody adverts for it anymore. It's always the men's grooming kit now.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, let's not talk about that.
Unless they want to sponsor us, and then I'll talk about it all day.
You know what I like to do when I'm watching X-Files? Turn the volume up real loud. So Krichgau, although at first reluctant, hears about some of the symptoms that Mulder is experiencing, and you can tell right away he knows what this is.
Yeah.
And he basically tells, I mean, he doesn't keep much to himself, basically tells Skinner that, like, there was tests going on, and I have seen stuff like this before, and I know how to get around it.
Yeah.
They end up going back to the hospital, and Skinner takes a leap of faith, basically.
I know, yeah. Pretty big leap of faith, I think.
Pretty huge. Yeah. But again, his back's against the wall. Like, what's he going to do? Yeah. And they end up... I've forgotten the name of the medication.
It begins with P, like
Phenytoin.
Yeah, something like that, yeah. Or Fentanyl or something like that.
But yeah, they end up injecting him with this, which the sci-fi
explanation
for it is that it stops his brain shooting those electrodes and basically calms him down because his brain is working faster than his body can keep up with.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that, by the way. I think I thought the whole thing with Mulder and his ailments, I thought was great. I thought it was just a perfect explanation for it. I didn't need to go into any more detail than I already did. It worked.
Yeah. I like as well, like this sort of reducing the hero down to something where he's out of control or he's not in control of his situation. So then you have to see what other people do around this. So he's still Mulder's still part of it, and essentially he's the most important character in this story, but he's got no part of what's happening to it, you know what I mean? Like, directly, other than like when other people inject him with stuff, you know what I mean, to get him functioning. So it's interesting to see this sort of switch of dynamics of like the story as well, like the characters in the story.
Sure. Yeah, I completely agree. I'll just, like, really quickly, we go into like what his sort of symptoms are and what this means for Mulder, and we find out that Mulder has, through like osmosis of this, he has some sort of psychic abilities and also like has the ability to read minds. So we find out the psychic ability from the very fact that he literally does like a psychic test.
I love this scene. Like, it was like the first time they do it, obviously he's too fast for it, and it's like, oh, he's not accurate. And then they turn the speed up to 100%, and he's like getting everything. I really want to know how they did this scene.
Well, I don't. You seem really excited about the scene, and I just saw one on the left that was just going, because basically the idea for it, I mean, everyone's watched it, so I don't know why I'm explaining it, but he's got to tap the screen that when it shows the spaceship.
Yeah.
The one on the left's like spaceship Fox, spaceship Fox, spaceship Fox. It's like he's just tapping it like it's every other picture.
I was quite impressed with it, you know.
It made for a great visual.
Yeah.
And it showed what he was capable of. And again, their reactions to what he was doing.
Do you know what's annoying? No production notes on this, on how they did it. Like, if he was like sort of practicing it, or if they just timed it.
I reckon it's just a practice thing.
Yeah, maybe. Like,
or even if they just tapped random ones and they did in post.
Or if they did it in, like filled it in later. That's probably how they did it. But I was really interested. I was like, I wonder how they did this. No one ever knew. If you do know, let me know, because I'm interested in how they did it.
You know what I thought it was? It was probably just a two-sided screen.
Yeah.
You can see it.
Yeah, probably.
And we also get proof or validation of his mind-reading abilities by the fact that, A, he finds out that Krychek's got a hold over Skinner.
Yeah.
And basically says to Skinner, I like this scene, because he basically said to Skinner, I know why you can't help me.
Yeah.
And Skinner's face, it was like this pain, or it was like a big weight had been lifted off his shoulders. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He hasn't had to like out himself.
He's not betraying Mulder anymore. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And he also reads Fowley's mind when she shows up and realizes that she's in cahoots with cigarette smoking man.
As soon as I saw Fowley, I was like, I don't know why. The more and more I see her, the more and more I dislike her character. I mean, like, stuff changes, I guess, in the next episode to a degree. But yeah, it's just, there's something about her that just seems disingenuous. Whether that's true, I don't know. There's just something about her.
She's got an unlikable face.
Maybe it is.
Apologies to Mimi Rogers, because that is your face. I
mean, to be fair, she plays the role perfectly. I don't think you're meant to like her at all. Like, I think you're meant to sort of... She's like one of these characters that's written to... Same as Krychek. Next episode, Krychek.
I love Krychek.
You love to hate him.
Yes, yeah.
Like, you love to hate him, but he's an absolute... He plays it brilliantly, because you go, God damn it. Like, every time he does something.
That is such a skill to have. 100%. And you can go so far with that. I'll tell you the best example of that in the last 10 years. And I forget his name. I don't even know whether I ever knew his name. But the kid that played Joffrey in Game of Thrones.
Yeah. I can't remember his name either.
Incredible ability to make people hate you.
Yeah.
And if you've got that, you can have people eating at the palm of your hand.
Yeah.
Because it's such a powerful ability. Because it's so much... It's where I think we're designed as humans to kind of be empathetic by our very nature.
Mm-hmm.
to despise someone to the extent that you couldn't wait to see anything happen to them. That is quite an ability, and if you've got that, man, you can go far. Back in Ivory Coast, Scully, and again, Scully and Barnes are kind of working together at this point. It's a very fractured relationship.
It's kind of like a at gunpoint, like
almost everything but kind of.
Yeah.
But they are sort of working through the different, basically what they're discovering about these ships, and they're translating everything. There's a lot of what was the language that they found? Was it?
It's Navajo, the language.
Was it Navajo? Yeah.
They find it's Navajo. But one of the passages they say, it's actually a passage from the Quran. So they mention there. So we've got Bible verses, Quran verses, and all these different.
I mean, a lot of them about apocalyptic events as well.
Exactly, yeah.
And then not only that, but Scully also finds genetic codes for like human beings, men and women, and it's like it's all proof. Basically, the proof is all there that this basically is a Rosetta Stone for humanity, not a language, humanity itself, which is insane. Like, that's such a huge leap than what we've seen before of any proof.
Yeah.
And for Scully especially, like, she wanted it down in black and white in front of her. She's literally got it, black and white photos in front of her.
That's the thing now. At this point, it's not like Mulder presenting these theories that are, like, hard to believe because they're implausible. In this case, it's everything that she said she wanted. Like, she wants to prove the X-Files are real based on scientific evidence, and here is the scientific evidence that can prove everything. So yeah, she has to be on board now. So I'm liking this switch now where she has to believe this because the evidence is in front of her. It's just nice to see that there's not this arbitrary conflict of, well, I have to be the skeptical one, you know what I mean? Like,
let's not get too excited because I will believe it when we get to the next Monster of the Week episode. Let's see what happens there. Yeah. But like you said, Barnes gets increasingly crazy, ends up pulling a machete out.
This bit, I was watching, I was like, why did they let him? Because like he walked over and picked it up. Like they were in front of the machete. I'd be like, I'll grab this first.
Crazy Barnes coming, hide it under the table.
Anything like grab it first or like I don't know. Yeah,
I didn't talk about this at the beginning of the podcast, but like Scully grabbing the machete for like any noise in the forest. I loved Scully coming out of her tent. She came out of her tent like 3 times, armed with a machete. Yeah, it was great. But yeah, Barnes. This is where he starts to say, "Now this is my discovery. You're not taking any of this information away. You're not telling anybody. It's all mine. I want to be the one that discovers this." And we find out that he's making more discoveries because he's found out that the ship is bringing fish back to life. Dead fish in the water that he's found. They're coming back to life, which is huge. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have time to really enjoy it though because he gets attacked.
Hit with a chair.
And Scully makes her escape with, what was the woman's name again? Sorry.
Nagebi, I think.
Nagebi, that's it. Something like that.
I don't know if they actually... Does she ever say her name?
She does, because I remember thinking to myself at the time, I've got no idea how to say that name or how to spell it, should I say on my notes.
I saw it written down. I was like, I really hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. If I've got the pronunciation incorrect, I'm sorry. I'm going off of just what I think it was, but I think it's correct.
Exactly. And then the only other point to note is they get into the car, they start to drive away, and Scully sees that... I don't really know. Again, I don't really know what to call this guy, but I just put in my notes like a native African man.
Yeah. The way they worded it when I was like taking down notes of what the synopsis was, they described him as primitive African man, and I was like, that sounds a bit sketchy the way they've described it there. And I was like, I'll just put like tribe or something like that.
That's the thing, because I don't really, and again, we never really hear much about the story. It just feels like it's meant to be like this omen.
Yeah, exactly.
Thing. Yeah. There is also like a scene where Scully sees this guy in front of the road. They stop, and then when she turns, he's actually driving the car.
Yeah.
But she kind of comes to, and we realise that it's all in Scully's head. Mm-hmm. So it does feel like more... I don't know whether it's an omen as such, or maybe it's just Scully being very tired, and then maybe he's like saying, well, this is...
Or maybe it's hinting at something that's in the next episode, because in the next... the spoilers for the next episode, but they're quite linked, so it's hard not to.
Yeah.
So we see, spoilers for the next episode if you really haven't watched it. But we see Albert Hosteen in the next episode, and we find out that he's been sort of like seeing her in like premonitions and visions.
Yes.
I wonder if that's something linked to this, that she's seeing something that isn't actually there from somebody who's dead or something
Possibly,
like that.
yeah.
Maybe there's another part of the story that we don't know about yet. Maybe in like 5 episodes time or something, we'll find out that she's got some kind of precognition or something kind of like Mulder. Maybe it's something similar. Maybe this won't get explained and it's just this weird omen that we've...
Yeah, exactly. Like, it could generally be, like, just... Yeah, because this is the thing. If you're saying that this alien craft is, like, the basis for most religions, you can't then say, oh, well, this is a religious omen for, like, our people. And, yeah, it doesn't make sense in that sense, you know what I mean? So,
yeah, exactly.
I'm not sure. But I kind of just took it to mean as, like, this is just what Scully's going through, and this is the way she's seeing things.
Yeah.
And maybe it's the ship affecting her.
Yeah, it's hard to tell without knowing what happens for the rest of the series. So we kind of just have theories, I guess, here, and what we've sort of been left with after these 2 episodes. So yeah, that's it really.
Towards the end of this episode, Fowley catches Skinner injecting Mulder again, basically continuing to test him. But when she does catch them, Mulder goes into shock, which is like the worst time because they catch Skinner red-handed. The doctors are there, and they're all like, "What are you giving to this guy? What are you doing?" And Skinner's like, "Let me explain. Actually, we're healing him." And then he goes into seizure.
Yeah, you're like, "Oh, damn it!" Yeah, It's hard to explain really at that point. Isn't it?
Skinner's got no defense anymore. It's like, you've done this. So, but yeah, Mulder goes into like this complete seizure while Skinner's sat there trying to explain what's going on. And also at the same time, we get, again, a crazy scene of Barnes just chopping through the neck of his driver.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
I think he's experimenting because he's seen these fish, isn't he? And he's like, well, let's see if it works with humans, I guess.
Did you read it as an experiment? See,
that's what I thought he was trying, is like, because he says sorry, doesn't he?
I thought he was just going crazy.
I mean, a bit of both, really. Yeah.
Definitely. Because he does, for me, he seemed shocked when he got back up.
I think he's shocked
that it worked.
But then he doesn't have time to really reflect on it because, well.
But yeah, I mean, let's not beat around the bush.
Yeah.
The driver eventually gets up and just absolutely brains Barnes, machete in the head. What do we think this is? How is this ship bringing people back to life?
It's hard to say really, like, as to what it is. Maybe it's sort of... See, my brain goes to... do you remember that Doctor Who episode where that, like, spaceship crashed and had, like, these nanomachines that was...
Oh, like futuristic technology type thing. Yeah.
I wonder if it's something like that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm only going off of sci-fi I've seen before that might have a similar kind of explanation. So maybe it's something like that. Who knows, though, really?
I don't...
Or it's an alien ghost. Or
yeah. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Bringing people back from the dead... I mean, this is weird because I'm watching a sci-fi show.
Yeah.
I always have problems with them. Because I always get caught in the same rut, which is like, what happens if I decapitate this person? Do they still come back to life?
Yeah.
Or like, and then you break it down, like, every death would have complications. Like, it's not just about, like, whether I've lost my head. Like, the brain has gone so long without oxygen. There's no blood flowing through your body anymore, so cells have died. Like, what happens to... How does it bring you back to life without any adverse effects?
That's the thing, and like that's where you always see when it goes to sort of like a zombie kind of thing, where it's like, oh, they are dead, but something's like...
Zombies I can get on board with, yeah. Just bringing back to life doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, maybe we'll get an explanation to... Well... You'd hope so. Like, it's quite...
The ship goes in the end of the next episode, so...
We will never find out. I mean, I'm hoping we find out. But then there's some good explanation to it other than just, they get back up. Yeah. If it's something similar to like Doctor Who, where it's like, it's either a nanomachine or... don't know, like an alien cell that works like a parasite or something like
Yeah.
that. I'd be like, okay, and it just sort of puppets a dead body, you know?
Yeah,
I'd be like,
yeah.
yeah, fair enough, I can believe that. Kind of like the black oil, isn't it? Similar kind
To an
of stuff.
extent, yeah, actually, because that's like uses bodies as like avatars, doesn't it?
Yeah. Did we have the name for black oil? I'm sure we have, haven't we? Now, I'm sure they mentioned it.
Remember when I was talking earlier on the podcast about how we're not that educated on X-Files and we should be more, but
I'm
it's
sure.
part of our charm.
Yeah. I'm sure they've mentioned the name of it, but I don't want to say it in case they haven't and I've read it somewhere, you know what I mean?
Okay.
By accident.
I'm pretty sure they have.
Yeah.
But I don't know it off the top of my head.
Yeah.
That's basically all the entire episode. I don't have any more notes on that.
No, not really. We get like the scene at the end where because they're basically saying, they've what is it? Skinner gets sort of told he can't go and see Mulder now.
Yes.
So Scully goes to see him, and we get this like emotional scene where she's sort of upset that he might be dying. Essentially,
Yeah, and like I'm going to sort this out, basically.
Yeah. I enjoyed this as like a final end to like this middle part of it, because then it's it gives this like emotional link, and you know obviously they're going to sort it at the end, but yeah, it's sort of nice to tie that into it and give it something for the next episode,
Especially with the added context that this episode gives that moment, which is basically we now know that Fowley. I mean, yes, it's a very much a real illness that Mulder's got. But it doesn't necessarily have to be like this, or at least not this bad. So Fowley is essentially holding Mulder hostage in his own body.
Yeah, basically.
So, do you know what I mean? So, like, that's that added sort of like, we know Mulder can understand what's going on around him, but he is literally being held hostage.
Yeah.
But as a whole, what did you think of the episode?
It was a good reintroduction, and I mean, there's a bit of bias here. I think that it just felt good to be doing X-Files and the podcast again.
Sure.
So there's definitely a sort of that kind of feeling to it. It definitely feels like going back into a mythology episode. You have to do a bit of homework, I feel like.
Yeah.
Especially
now.
Yeah.
It never used to be like this. And
yeah.
I'd be interested to like ask our listeners, like, was there a point where it started to get... Is it confusing because we just don't spend enough time with all these side characters? Or is it because there's just so much that we've got to remember?
Lore from... Yeah.
The problem I have with it is the lore... There's a lot of lore, and I don't have a problem with lore. I mean, how many times have we mentioned on this podcast that Lost is my all-time favourite show? The difference between this and Lost is, though, Lost gives you the lore 60 minutes, every episode, week after week, bang, bang, bang.
And to its credit, its previously ons as well will show you what you need to know for this episode. And I feel like X-Files misses a trick there. It just shows you what happens in the last episode.
Yes, exactly. The thing with X-Files, though, is it's not week after week. No. It's not 50 minutes. It's not... The characters that are important to the storyline, like... his name's gone from my head.
Critchko.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like Critchko. Like I said, has probably had a total of 15-minute screen time in 7 seasons.
Yeah.
And now he's this major player.
Yeah.
And it does become this sort of like... I wish we had a little bit more time to sort of know who this character was. Yeah. So that when he does show up and it's like the name's written on the arm, the name written on the arm felt like it should be like a moment.
Yeah.
And for me, it was like a huh?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%, yeah.
And I feel like if we'd have had an episode where, like Cigarette Smoking Man, if we have episodes dedicated a little bit more to these characters, maybe we'd go, oh, I know this guy.
I think, even though, I honestly think, talking about that now, that previously on which we're talking about we lost, I honestly think that would resolve the issue as well.
If you had a scene of him.
Yeah, if they said previously on X-Files, and it was showing Mulder doing the walk and talk with Critchko, we go, oh, Critchko, like, it might telegraph a bit of what's going to happen in the episode.
But at least you know what's going on.
Exactly, yeah. But I'll be like, oh, yeah, that's Critchko from that series, you know what I mean? Like, or there's different... Yeah, I mean, like, if it took stuff from different episodes in the series, I think that's... If I was to have to give it any negative, it really doesn't hold your hand, and that can be a negative sometimes, I find.
Yeah. And it's such for such a let's be honest, this is quite a complex, the mythology episode.
Yeah, 100%, yeah.
It's quite a complex storyline with many moving parts. Like, we've got 3 or 4 sub-stories to this.
Yeah.
And that's not even including the idea that aliens caused the extinction or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
There's 4 or 5 different subplots, different underlying stories, and all these moving parts. It's very complex, all interconnected. And we have 2 episodes, maybe 3, a season. It just, to me, watching this, I realised how underprepared I was to figure it out. And you do figure it out. And it's not like you're completely lost. And I can enjoy the episodes for what they are. This, for me, gave me an idea of, like, there's definitely a benefit to having a fully focused narrative on the main storyline, like a lot of other shows do.
Yeah. It's one of those things as well. That's a lot of 90s TV shows tended to be like this, where they sort of venture off and stuff like that. So But
before we started recording, you mentioned to me, and I'm going to steal one of your lines here and take credit for it, but you said that if you watch the mythology arcs as a whole, without the filler in the middle, and just watch that story from start to finish, you reckon it would be like making... And I was like, I'm sure that would make complete sense. Yeah. I reckon that would be like a really good way to watch it.
Also, it would probably only be about 3 seasons worth of episodes. So you'd sort of... It'd be nice, concise sort of storytelling.
And yes, you'd have like bits and bobs that like might not like sort of quite make sense, but I think it'd make more sense than piecing together major players.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It definitely does feel... this is the first time I felt with these 2 episodes, and again, we're sort of given the game, we're going to have nothing to talk about. It did feel like the first time where I was kind of out of my depth for some certain things, and I got there in the end. But initially, I was like, okay, so this is because of this. This is why he's this guy, and there's a lot of stuff you have to try and like map together. It was difficult, I think. It definitely hampered these sort of episodes. And to be honest, I think this is probably the weakest one of the 3, just because it's the middle one.
Yeah.
And it has no like sort of start or conclusion. So it was... I enjoyed it, though. I did enjoy it overall. If I'd give it any kind of grade, I did enjoy it.
Yeah. I same for me. I had my gripes, but I enjoyed it as a whole.
Luke's production notes.
Regarding this episode's origin, Frank Spotnitz said, "We destroyed all of the stuff about Mulder's father, the project and the syndicate. All the things that had sustained us for the 6 years were suddenly gone. We had no crutches from this point on. Every time we sat down to write a mythology show, we knew it was going to be a completely different challenge."
Which is what we said about... Yeah. I hate this because it feels like we've read it before. So this is, again, if you're new listening to this is the first time I'm hearing any of these production notes.
And even though I do them, all I do is...
Copy and paste,
I copy and paste, split them into... This is Luke's production notes. I copy and paste, split them into bullet points, and I delete the ones that are utterly boring. They filmed in California. I'll be like, we know. Chris Carter believed that the Sixth Extinction functioned as a transitional episode, stating, "I felt that with the Sixth Extinction, I was just playing a support role, and that the episode, essentially the middle episode of a 3-episode arc, was just a transitional episode to get us to Amor Fati." I think that's how it's pronounced anyway. Which was really less about the mythology and more about Mulder's choices in life. It definitely did feel like this was... With 3-episode arcs, sometimes I do feel like it's 1 episode too many. You know what I mean? Like, the beginning and end work better than having this middle part, if you know what I mean?
I feel like they crutch themselves sometimes by wanting to have a cliffhanger over seasons.
Yeah.
For this particular 3-episode arc, for me, it felt like they wanted to tell the 2nd episode of season 7, so the next episode we're going to review, it felt like they wanted to tell that story, and the first 2 episodes was a way to get there.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, out of the 3, next week's episode feels like the important one.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, there's so much more in next week's episode than sort of this one kind of... Because of that, it kind of felt a bit, not flat, but like not as important as a series opener. I was glad because we were doing X-Files again. But if I was just, watching it live, would this have been a fulfilling start?
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll talk about that more in Critic X-Files, I guess.
Yes.
Because David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson both had other commitments at the start of the season, production for this episode was delayed. It ended up being filmed third in the season after the episode Hungry and the Goldberg variant.
Okay.
So there you go. We had the 2 Monster of the Weeks beforehand.
And we've got 2 titles of episodes that I didn't know.
Yeah.
So Hungry and what was the other one? The
The
Goldberg
Goldberg variant. Or variation, sorry.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Carter wrote the episode simultaneously as Duchovny was working on the next episode, The Sixth Extinction 2. Alma Fatty. I was tempted to do Electric Boogaloo. Kim Manners said preparations were confusing since it was not clear how the storylines would unfold and feed into one another. Spotnitz said of the end result, for me, it was a lot like a 50s monster movie, with Scully out on the beach with this guy going nuts with a machete, the bug attacks and the sea of blood. Yeah, it was supposed to be serious business, but overall I thought it was shaping up as a pretty entertaining hour.
Yeah. Again, that's the thing. Like, if you was to ask me what I watch X-Files for, it's for Mulder and Scully.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, let's not be like pedants about this. I could tell you that I'm after the themes and I'm after like the narrative. Let's be honest. I'm in it to see what Mulder and Scully are up to.
Yeah.
And I got that. You know what I mean? I got that this episode. So you can't be too... And maybe that's on me. Maybe my bar set too low because I do generally enjoy the majority of the episodes.
Yeah.
But you do always get that Mulder and Scully dynamic, which is great.
Yeah.
It just falls flat for me in certain areas.
Yeah, 100%. The sequence where the locals are boiled by the ocean water required the use of various degrees of burn makeup, which was applied to stunt performers. An underwater camera was then used to capture these actors as they writhed in pain.
Took far too long to get out of the water, by the way.
Yes.
Just get out of the water. Yeah. Just get out of the water.
I mean, he's burning though, isn't he? It's hot.
Yeah, but like I feel like if anything, that would give me more urgency.
It'd be like, what is it? Do you know when you drop a frog in boiling water and they jump straight out? Would that be you fire out to the
exactly. Like I get the whole idea of like when you grab a burning hot pan,
you immediately.
Well, like if you grab it with your palm, like instant reaction is to clasp it, isn't it? Because like the pain you clasp. Yeah. You can't clasp water though, Luke.
and I've tried. To create the scene in which a huge number of insects swarmed Scully's tent.
Oh, I'm interested in this one.
Popcorn and foam peanuts were blown by a large fan onto the soundstage.
Incredible.
Images of crickets were then digitally composited on top of the detritus during post-production.
That is fantastic.
Apparently over 50,000 dead crickets were also rented by the show and strewn about on the stage of the floor to further the effect.
That is genuinely incredible. I really like that.
Imagine the animators. It's like, so what am I doing today then? So you need to reanimate all of these foam nuggets to be crickets. It'd be like, it's going to be a long day today.
On the flip side, imagine Gillian Anderson coming into work. What am I doing today? Well, you're going to be in a tent full of popcorn and peanuts.
Yeah. Blasted.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It stinks.
Welcome to the Critic Files.
So, what would you give this episode?
Was we giving it marks out of 10? I forgot how we do this.
Out of 10. With you can give it like a 0.5 as well. You're really pedantic. Give it a 0.3.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to give this a B-.
I don't even know grades.
It was good.
Yeah.
I don't want people to think I'm down on the episode. I'm not. I did enjoy it. I think, you know what it is? I think I'm worried about the mythology.
Yes. I had the same worries after watching these 2 episodes. I enjoyed it, but I had some worries about the future.
Exactly. I feel like it's more an overarching thing where I enjoyed the episode on its own as an individual episode, and now I'm worrying that next time a mythology episode comes up, I'm not going to really know what's going on.
Yeah. I have a feeling it's getting to the point where it's becoming too big.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I'd like just to focus in on one storyline, maybe.
See, this is the thing as well. I thought the killing of the syndicate and like the getting rid of all that was to simplify it down, maybe.
Yeah.
But there's still a lot of stuff from that story that's been pulled forward. And it's like, oh, okay, like we're still using all that. So I don't know. Yeah, I do have concerns. Again, like I said, I enjoyed it, but you know, what would you?
It's a B minus. It's a B minus, Luke. Yeah.
I need numbers. I need numbers. I give it 100% now. I gave it a 7.
A 7.
7 out of 10. I feel like that's a fair. You know, it's good. I enjoyed it. It's not like something I would be like, this is the best season opening.
No, not by long shots. Yeah.
The internet, or IMDb's corner of the internet, with 2,781 votes, gave it a 7.8.
Okay.
So a bit higher.
Yeah, more favourable than I thought it would be, to be honest.
Yeah. But still not amazing, I don't think, for a
season opener.
Yeah. They usually tend to be higher, but maybe that's just the sort of the trend of.
Might be worth keeping an eye on that, because mythology episodes tended to be sort of like high 8s, low 9s.
Usually. Yeah,
so it'll be interesting to see whether that changes throughout the season.
Well, we shall see. That's the end of Critics Files.
Okie doke. Big news. I mentioned it towards the end of last season. We was going to do mailbags and we were going to do all this, and then we just never really got round to it. We kept forgetting to mention it. You know what? I'm not going to make excuses. Dan's Twitter corner, it's making a return. Yeah. We're coming back. So get your tweets in. Let us know, send emails, do whatever you need to do.
I actually have emails on my phone now, so if you do send emails, I will get them.
There we go. We're all set for you. So get in touch.
Don't bother with Facebook, though.
But let us know your thoughts. Let us know what you thought of the episodes. And we're going to get back to getting a little bit more of listener feedback and sort of interactions. Because I thoroughly missed that last season.
Yeah.
And it was you know what, we didn't even try something. We just tried to try it.
Yeah. We said we were definitely going to do it, but then we just found that like by the time we would have got to do a mailbag episode, everything that we'd been sent would be out of date.
Yeah, it didn't really work.
Wouldn't have worked.
Not with the schedule we was running at the time. Yeah. So you know what does work? Twitter corners.
Twitter corner, yeah.
There's a reason why it was an award-winning Twitter corner.
That's why it goes jingle. It works out well as well, because I've noticed that we've had a lot of like new people start watching or start listening and watch along with it as well. I've noticed that like a few different people popping up. So definitely if you're watching live anyway, then get your
thoughts in. Yeah, because I always enjoy that part of the show, and. It's another reason why I do like having the breaks in between seasons, because it does give people time to catch up to where we are now, so they can watch along with us.
Yeah, exactly.
But apart from that, I think that's everything. Stick around, we'll be back next week to finish off. It always feels like we're sort of doing a half episode.
Yeah.
Next week we'll be here to finish off with, what was the episode title again, Luke?
The Sixth Extinction 2, Amour Fatigue.
Looking forward to talking about that. But until then, keep yourself safe, and we'll see you next time.
That was Latin.
I like that.